Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. It's a Chit Chat Wednesday, and today's guest is Jaz Zepatos. She has a podcast about movies from the 90s and 80s and 2000s, like millennial movies, the ones that like live in your head, and every time you turn on the TV and you see one on, you're like, I gotta finish this movie. So we talk about movies a lot and nostalgia, and then towards the end, we talk about Jazz and her relationship and how she met the guy she's living with through like a random kind of friend who said they had a dream about them dating, which I just think is hilarious and awesome. And this is a really nice conversation. We worked together on the Betcha podcast over at Betcha's, and now she's doing comedy on her own. So go follow Jazz. She's so funny. And enjoy today's episode. Boom. Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. This is JTrain, Jared Freid, coming to you live from San Jose, California. That's right. Every Wednesday is a Chit Chat Wednesday where I chit chat with a friend, a comedian, or an expert. Today, I think we have all three. We have a friend, a comedian, and an expert in many things, but two of them being millennial movies and pop punk.
That's right.
Jaz Zepatos, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me, JTrain. I miss you, buddy. I mean, being on the mics together before, we had a laugh, and I'm excited to do it again today.
It's long time no see. What's been going on with you? Where are you coming from? Give us the, and everyone should go follow Jazz at Jazz_Zap with 2 P's on the gram and on all platforms, I'm sure. So go follow. She has a podcast, Millennial Movie Club. Explain Millennial Movie Club for the people that are listening and watching on YouTube.
I will. I'm sitting in my living room in Manhattan, where I literally just finished recording an episode. My dog has been so annoyed with me being on the mic all day, clearly. But I
want some attention.
He wants some attention. But we record it here. If I turn my screen, you would see like a full production studio that we set up every day with the lights and the 3 cameras and all the things. But we do a weekly podcast where we talk about a movie from 80s, 90s, early 2000s, sort of like right in that millennial nostalgia pocket. And we talk about how the movie was made. We do fun facts about the film. We read some of the wildest reviews we can find about the film.
Give me what is the movie you did today?
Today we did The Terminator.
I don't think I've ever seen Terminator, now that you mention it.
I had not either. And I think a lot of people might think that they've seen it, or especially the first one, and they haven't. And I gotta say, the effects, something that struck me to my core when I first started watching was this film was made in the 80s, which is 50 years ago.
50.
Which is really upsetting.
That hurts to hear. I think I know one fun fact about the Terminator is that it wasn't supposed to be the Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle that it was. Like, it was kind of a Steve Urkel scenario where the big, Steve Urkel was supposed to be this like bit part on Family Matters, and then he became the show. And I think, is that kind of what happened with Arnold?
Yes. So what's funny is, because I know everything there is to know about the Terminator.
You're the expert now.
Yeah. One more thing on the list, please, when you put my bio in the description.
There it is. Terminator expert,
right.
Emo Punk.
That's right. All the most important things.
Right.
All the things that will make you a lot of money.
How'd she get her first billion? I think it was Emo Pop Terminator trivia.
Probably that one night, that one weird bar night somewhere. So actually, the studio wanted to cast Arnold as Kyle Reese, the other character who comes back to save her. not
Okay.
as the Terminator. And they wanted O.J. Simpson to play the Terminator. And then they decided against that because it seemed too nice. He seemed like too nice of a guy, and it was not realistic that he could possibly kill a young white woman. So they
OJ
did
was
not.
too nice. This is the most
Yeah.
ironic thing of all time.
Yes, it is. And so, but James Cameron was super against having Arnold in that role. He wanted somebody who was a little bit different, more sensitive, a more sensitive type, somebody, that Sarah could fall in love with. And we have to remember James Cameron was just at the beginning of his career. He had done the only thing he had directed before this was Piranhas 2. So,
Well, James
he's
Cameron also, like, he's Titanic guy, and then he
oh
becomes
yeah,
Under the Sea
Avatar,
guy.
Aliens.
But he's really
Big name.
sci-fi guy. Like,
Oh yeah.
like I think Titanic probably like gives him a different. They talk about the first paragraph of your obituary, like what gets written about you, and like his is Titanic, and then it becomes like 7 other movies. Like James Cameron was like Steven Spielberg and him, like kind of similar, and you wouldn't think of it that way maybe now.
Yeah, definitely not. P.S. What's in your paragraph in your obituary? What do you think people are saying?
Generous cuddler would be Jared
Ooh.
Freid, generous cuddler, famous for complaining about his body to no ends, and self-deprecating humor has passed of too many farts. That would be the most likely.
Suffocated in his own hotel room on tour. Yeah.
Right. I think about dying on the road all the time. I don't know why. It is like a very dark thought, and I'll never forget when I started having that thought. It was in San Antonio, and I remember I did LOL Comedy Club in San Antonio, which I haven't been back to in a long time.
Too
And
much
I remember-
trauma associated.
Well, I do want to go back because I think San Antonio is like a fun time if you know where to stay. This, like, where you stay matters, and like hotels, and this, like you go
Yes.
away and you go, like I unpack when I get to a place. But San Antonio, I remember I did like a Wednesday and I did a Sunday show, and in between I was opening for someone else. So it was like I was there for like a longer time than maybe you want to be away from home. Like when you do a weekend somewhere, like I'm in San Jose, Friday, Saturday, leave Sunday, long flight, but in and out, you can get through it. It's, I'll run up a mountain and I'll be done. This was like a long time. And I remember this is a really weird decision to talk about this, but I remember having kind of like shortness of breath, heart palpitation type of, like, I'd never gotten anxiety attacks. I started getting anxiety attacks for some reason. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die here. And I kept thinking of, I would look out the window and it was all highway. Like San Antonio, if you stay like, a hotel that a comedy club puts you up in.
Yeah.
And the highways in San Antonio, for some reason, just all levels. Like it just kept going. It was like one of those things where it was like 30 levels. It just went high into the sky. And I remember looking at that. I'm like, man, I'm going to die next to this highway. And then my parents would have to come like retrieve me.
Yeah.
And my mom would be like, and I just have this you imagine what your mom would say. I just kept thinking of her, what was he doing here? Look at the highway. Like I just imagine my mom complaining about the place that I passed.
Clean. He didn't make the bed. There's still a pizza box here.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what made you die. Like her blaming me.
She's still scolding you in the grave.
Yeah, me above the bed in the the Red Roof Inn Plus, being like watching me get yelled at my dead body as a ghost.
You
If you're watching on YouTube,
that
you can see ghosts.
You kind of hope that like when you go out, it's not in the most embarrassing way possible. Like I had a similar situation where I don't really smoke weed because it makes me very anxious,
right?
Which I didn't know, and I was trying to be very cool at like the one music festival I went to in my 20s that I wasn't working at. And am I allowed to talk about this on the pod? Is that okay?
Why wouldn't you be able to talk about this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Your weed story? What do we live
my
in?
weed
North
story.
Korea?
I like people were passing around a blunt and I was like, I'll be cool, girl.
Arrest
and
her.
I did
No.
it. Right. The whole Zoom. Yeah. This is how I die. I immediately I was like, I think I'm gonna faint. And my friend was like, no, you're not. You're just, it's just you're just starting to feel good. And I blacked out, hit the ground, and then came to and totally was having a panic attack. But I remember sitting on the ground, people were just shoving kind bars into my mouth and just looking out. I was on the ground at a music festival. So I was looking out and all I could see was miles and miles of feet. And I just remember being like, I cannot die here. This is also this is the first time I've ever done drugs. And I've done too much cool shit in my life to be just another girl who dies at a music festival from doing drugs. That's so basic.
From weed too. What a nerd.
Yeah, from weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I can't be this basic of a bitch in my death. I gotta do
you think
something
everyone
cool.
I guess I would assume everyone has their story of oh my God, I can't die here.
I cannot die here. And maybe that's the will that pulls you out of your panic attack.
That's what gets you out of your weed freak out. So what's a movie that you did that you were like, I'm so happy I went back and looked at this movie?
That's a really good question. Because there are some movies that I'm happy in different ways. Some I'll be like, I'm so stoked this held up. I love this movie growing up and I still love it now. And then there are some movies that you go back and watch and you go, oh, I'm glad I went back so that I'm no longer being I love that movie. I'm no longer being oh, Never Been Kissed is such a romantic rom-com.
Tough watch.
Really, oh man, it's a tough watch today.
Right. Never Been Kissed is one of those where as an adult, because what you end up doing is seeing yourself through, you see the characters through the age you are when you watch it.
Yes.
And that can be good and bad. Never Been Kissed, you're like, oh, they're working. That's me. That's Drew Barrymore's me at the magazine. David, whatever was it? Who's the brother? He's the weirdest one.
Oh yeah, who used to be married to Courtney Cox?
Yeah,
Dave. His name is Dave. You're
Dave
right.
From Scream. His part is the weirdest. His is the one where you go, dude,
yikes.
There needs to be an intervention for you at the end of this movie because he coaches. He's playing on the team and he's the star
dating the high school girls and
he's in it.
We all know this guy. Yeah, we all know this guy in real life and it's nowhere near as cute and fun and likable as he is portrayed.
Yeah. What's a movie that worked again?
A movie that worked again. I will say speaking of Scream.
Okay.
Scream was a great one, and I had never seen it before because I don't do a lot of scary. I'm a little bitch and I can't handle it. But it was Halloween season and we were like, we got to do some scary. We got to be
right.
We got to be well-rounded. And so but I watched Scream and I was actually so impressed because it is a scary movie, but it is also a commentary on scary movies. The whole thing is kind of commenting on itself. So it was smart and campy in the way that you kind of want those movies to be. It was scary. It was gross. It was thrilling.
Right. The Scream was one of those, it wasn't a comedy as much as it was a look at us, look in the mirror movie. That's why when they try to do a bunch of them, it's hard to do that over and over again. That was really a one-off that got too much success, and they're we got to do this again.
And now they're still making them, and now it's now you're the movies that you were making fun of because now you've become super obvious and formulaic and just slashing for the sake of slashing. Where
what's a rom-com we don't hear about that you did that you were why don't we hear more about this one? Because that's the one we get kind of served the same rom-coms. We kind of get served those same ones over and over again. And it's we all know them. And you go, I think the big thing with movies for me is get me off of my algorithm. That's the hardest thing in the world with this whole streaming age. Because what's going to happen after we're done here is I'm exhausted from my flight. So I'm okay. We're going to do this. We'll do Chit Chat Wednesday. We'll say goodbye. I'll turn off the computer. I'll get into bed and I'll be okay, what am I doing? And it'll start with trying to watch Nathan For You. Nathan For You, Nathan, The Rehearsal, Nathan Fiedler.
That's
Have you-
already like a pretty. You're taking on a lot when you're tired after a flight because I feel like that requires an amount of mental work. Like
Right.
it's brilliant, but it's not an easygoing watch.
But that's where I'm going to start because I'll start
Okay.
with Nathan Fiedler thinking, I'll watch the rehearsal. I've been trying to watch this. I'll get 5 minutes and I'll be like, Jared, this is too much. This isn't happening right now. And then
Right.
straight to Marvel movies. And then I'll just like a movie that I've seen that I can kind of like pass out to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there are moments where I do like the Google. Do you ever do the Google where you're like movies that are popular right now, just so you can like find something that you didn't even know, you just want to like get something.
I do it constantly for the podcast. I do it. Yeah. I mean, because, and here's the thing. I think we're in an age, like you said, with streaming where half the time we're at home. We're so tired from everything else going on and from being blasted by information from every other device that we have in our hand that typically we're putting on something that is not going to require a ton of brain power from us. It's going to be something we can watch while also scrolling Instagram or swiping on a dating app, which is why like going to the movies was like an event.
Right.
It's like that was the thing. And it was the thing you were excited to go do. And now it's kind of just like what can I do that's going to make me feel like I'm doing something while I am on my phone?
It is a side dish. It's a main being eaten as a side. You're right.
Yes.
It is.
Like they are making content now. Like people who make movies and TV shows are being told to make something that people can watch without looking, which is crazy to me. This is real.
Really?
This is real. They're saying, what can people successfully watch and want to watch? Because there are shows where it's like, well, if this show's going to be mostly subtitles or something, like no matter how good it is, I'm not going to be able to follow it because I'm not going to be looking at my screen.
I don't like that.
My big screen. I don't like that at all.
There's nothing good about starting with what do people want. There's just nothing good. And nothing good comes out of that.
I can't believe you just said that, Jared, because we just finished this episode by reading a quote from the producer of the Terminator, who also would go on to produce like Alien and all of these other things with James Cameron. And she was saying, never try to chase your audience. You have to do what you do and your audience will find you. But if you're always trying to chase your audience, you will always be one step behind.
Absolutely. And especially you'll do it like okay. Like you're going to do you great because you'll want to do it. Your whole body will be put into it. It's it's something you got to like, especially right now, like with like the algorithm age and all those things. Like, you kind of just see a lot of people like it was funny. Like, I just posted that there should be a podcast. I was like fucking around on Twitter and Threads. And I was like, there should be a podcast called Make It Make Sense, where we interview I interview people about what they how they make their money. Like and it was like but in my mind, Make It Make Sense would be influencers that I know aren't making the money to afford the life I'm watching.
Yep.
So like
make it make sense.
Make
to all
it
of
make
us,
sense
please.
to me that you are splitting your time between Florida and New York. Make that make sense based on what I know about the economy of money that comes in from being on the, on your phone, pimping shit out. And it's like, I put that out there and then it got on Threads. It like got a bunch of likes. So then people I don't, that don't know me are, responding. And they're like, so you're going to copy, so-and-so? And I was like, no, I didn't.
No,
I didn't. And I look up the guy that they mentioned, and I've seen the guy. He's in commercials for like personal finance, and I'm like, oh, I think he interviews people about their personal finances. I think he probably like does like a how can we like get you guys saving type of show. I don't know. I didn't look deeper than that, but I was like, no, I have this like the idea I have is from a place of good. And
you're
if it's
following
being
your
done,
own curiosity, is what it is. And if you're curious about something, then 9 times out of 10, somebody else is going to want to know the same thing.
Totally. And I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it the way I saw it done before. Because I came from a place of like, I think it'd be interesting to talk to not normal people. I want to talk to influencers. I want to see the person.
Right.
I saw their vacation. I looked at the hotel. It was $1,500 a night. Come on over. Make it make sense.
Like, do you think I made a movie podcast thinking like this will be the first one?
Right.
No,
Right.
like, people buy into your brand. People listen to the podcast because it's me and it's my co-host Jackson, and they start the same way. Like there are a dozen Bachelor Nation podcasts.
Sure.
It's just like you make friends with your host. You find the host that you relate to the most, who are asking the questions that you want the answers to. It's like
So based
no
on
one's
that,
inventing the wheel.
no. And based on that, let me ask you a question because I thought about you earlier. I check into my hotel, and there's a Fanime conference going on in San Jose.
You think they did that on purpose for you?
It kind of felt like it because I got here, and there's a bunch of nymphs, and there's elves, and people with ears, and
yeah. Are you sure this isn't like a porn convention for
I
people?
asked. I go, is it? I go, what's going on here? They're like Fanime, and I don't even feel comfortable saying Fanime. Like I don't know what that even. Like I'm like, but
fans of anime, but still like what? But that to me says it's different than just an anime convention.
Right, it's got to be bigger. It's all of it.
This seems like a singles event almost.
Well, that was the other thing. You know, people are dressed up to like they are in.
But why were you thinking of me?
Well, I saw this, but you're in. I feel like is when I hear pop punk and emo punk, that to me like these two worlds are next door neighbors to me. Like the idea of going to a place and dressing the part, like you go to these events and you dress the emo part, like in the same way that these people who were like, you just let out a loud exhale. I'm sorry. I was
no.
You were on the calendar, so you came to my. I'm just saying, like when I saw them with like a big staff and Gandalf beard, and like, the women are all like they're all dressed like they're going to battle, of some kind.
Like in that regard, like they're both subcultures, right?
Yes.
Like anything else, like the same way I'm trying to think of like anything else. But, I would say, yeah, one is like they're all content genres that people like can sort of revolve an identity around. And what's funniest about this for me is that like I grew up being an actor. I was a theater kid. I was I started getting into comedy and all of that. And a big part of that for me was musical comedy. I've been doing music parodies for a decade. And for some reason, I made a very silly lo-fi, low-effort video in my bed of like me doing a parody of what these pop punk bands used to sound like in the early 2000s, specifically the dude frontmen of these bands, just basically being like, she made out with my best friend at the skateboard skate show. And like, that's what every single song sounded like back then. But we all were living for it. We all, I say lightly, in the community.
Were you a big fan back in high school? Was this like your world?
Totally. Yes. Like I grew up in South Florida, which the emo scene there was very like pop punk, skate park, surf culture. And like a lot of bands, like I went to the same high school as Newfound Glory. Like a lot of the bands of the scene came from that area. And I made this video and it blew up, and suddenly like overnight I became emo girl online. And so, which is funny because like I was so into it back then. Like I've got the knowledge around it obviously, but suddenly I was like niched into this place where people were like, you're our emo queen. And I was not even the one that had been going to concerts in like a decade. I started getting asked to go to these festivals and doing content. And so I had to like buy new clothes. I had to like buy.
So let me ask you, this whole world, like to me, like the similarity between like emo world and video game world and fanime, and these all seem like things like nerdy men get into, and then when they find out that a woman likes it, they are like so excited because now they have something to connect about that they can be kind of experts in. And now I can talk to a woman I never thought I could talk to before. Is that like part of it?
I think that's probably a huge part of it, because I will say my following has grown a lot since then. And when I look at my all the statistics behind your following and all that, it's a lot of dudes. It's more
Right.
dudes that I all the time I'm trying to be like, girly pops, come
Right.
on over. Like it's all good over here. But it's a lot of dudes being like, you're into what I'm into and you're
Mm,
funny and you're hot, but still approachable hot. So
right.
it's like, I get a lot of DMs of guys just being like, let me just marry you, let me just take you out for dinner. And which is very kind, but also like
Well, when women ask where are the men, like that is a subject that comes up on You Up a
they're on my
lot.
page.
They're
Yeah,
on
they're
your
all they're
page.
they're in my inbox, and I will
Well,
happily send them to you.
you got a few you can siphon off to someone, but I when I get that question, I'm always like, because I'm like, well, where am I? Like I'm the man, whatever. And
Right.
then I
You're
think of
doing what
the
you're doing, waiting. I don't want to say you, but the general you, like you're doing what you're doing in your world, whether that's the video games or the anime or whatever, looking around for women that relate to you. But I want to ask you, Jared, like, is there ever a time where you think men are doing something that they generally take an interest in, uh, not because that typically is something that a woman would like, not because they're trying to find women?
no, you're absolutely right. Even as you're saying it, I was like thinking to myself, that's a great point because, and maybe because like just men generally are not like a part of their pie chart isn't I need to find someone,
Right.
like, and I think like that always plays that generally plays into a lot of women's like pie chart of like, what am I doing today? It's like, well, I got to play my
Yeah.
video games. I got to play. And then like women are like, well, I got to like make sure that I'm safe with someone. I don't know. That's maybe an old way of thinking, but I
No,
do
it
think it
makes
has something
sense.
it makes some sense because I'm like, because I was thinking like, what if I went like, let's talk about The Bachelor. Like getting into
Hmm.
The Bachelor is like, I have fun making fun of The Bachelor. The
Yes.
fact that women are involved in that world isn't like a surprise to me. I knew that,
Right.
but it wasn't as thought out like, okay,
You didn't get into it to pick up chicks.
right. I've been watching
Right.
reality TV since like literally like since I had a TV. Like I've like
Yes.
watched everything a little bit.
But I think this is part of just the way like society has been structured, not to be all like wokey jokey on you, but from the time I was a kid, it was very much like the whole premise of like the guy's girl. The
Mm,
like, oh, I'm not like these other girls, guys. Like, I'm cool.
right.
Like, I can play kickball with you, or like, I know these Pokemon names too. It's like there was always this impetus to be like, I'm not drama. I'm not too girly,
Right.
and it was this. And I don't know if this comes from like survival, needing to survive as women, like a million years ago, or like get the most successful man so you can move out of your father's house. I don't know where it comes from, but that was me as a kid, like hardcore. I was the guy's
Right.
girl. I was the one that was like, I just get along better with guys. But eventually that comes to bite you in the butt a little bit when like all your friends want to touch your boobies and you have to navigate that.
Right. It's so weird, talking this out. You're just like I'm thinking about this, and you're like there is, and again, like this is why, like if a guy was like, I get this a lot from like people who used to come to my shows. Their girlfriend would bring, you know, them to a show, and they'd be like, if I don't know a comedian, then they don't exist. This
Right.
guy and if my girlfriend knows the comedian, he must be lying to her in some way.
Right.
That's kind
Right.
of like the vibe I would get. And then I would do the show and I wouldn't, do anything but what I was doing. And they go,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, right. Yeah.
right. Oh,
Jared
okay.
Freid, the women's comedian.
Right. I guess so. Like, and I could kind of see that they would like have this, like, I would think I was helping I would like at its core, maybe I'm helping this relationship where they're like, they could see their girlfriend in a new way. Oh, she gets it. Like
Right.
even though
Right.
that's like kind of demeaning, like it's like kind of stupid.
Yeah. But I wonder too if it's like, because there are a lot of guys that go, oh, I know this great comedian. I'll take you on a date because I know
Mm.
comedy. I wonder, I'm sure this is a thing, but because I feel like we assume or what we know of in the zeitgeist is guys being like, okay, girl, this year, like, we're going to get you into the Bears. Like, this year, like, we're going to get you, you're going to love it. Once you
Yeah.
understand the game, you're going to be an Eagles fan. Once you really get it, and I'll explain it to you, babe. Don't worry about it. As opposed to being like, hey, can you like teach me how to understand this thing that you really like doing? And then
Right.
maybe we can do together. And I do think some of this does happen around reality TV where a woman will rope her boyfriend into being really invested in The Bachelor. Or, you know, I feel like sometimes we do this around TV, but I'm trying to think of other things where it's like, you really like yoga? Like, I'll start going to classes with you and maybe, you know, I don't know.
Well,
Have you ever done something like that
that's
for a girl?
almost a rom-com premise in itself. Like
But it also seems insincere. It seems
does
like,
seem insincere. Like
Yeah.
like I guess the rom-com would be athlete who gets injured has to go to yoga and
learns his
falls
softer
in
side.
right falls in love. At first he's a dick and then falls in love with the yoga teacher who teaches him how to do like
Mindfulness.
right.
let
It's
go
like,
of his earthly what do they call it? Like stop worrying about your possessions and
Right.
you know.
he misses the big game to go to the dance recital because he became into dancing through her. I don't know.
Right,
It does
right.
feel rom-commy and less truthful,
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so I gotta ask you before we go. We got so
Please.
much to go. When I met you,
Yes.
we're gonna talk about dating a little bit. When I met you, you were married and in an open relationship.
That's the truth.
And then you got divorced.
Yes.
And then you were single for a hot
Yes.
second, and now you're moved
Did
in
it
with someone
it seemed
new.
like that.
It was like nothing to me. So
This girl doesn't stay on the market very long, gentlemen.
no,
Okay?
she does. There's a lot of a lot of men in the DMs who want to discuss emo punk.
That's
so
right.
when you came on the U Up to talk about open relationships,
I did.
and I remember there was some feedback of especially from a dating podcast when you hear someone who has someone.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I'm out there dating and getting
still dating.
dates as you were. How-
People are like, leave them to us.
right. Like what the
Right.
fuck? There was a scarcity mindset, I guess.
Well,
How do you look back on being in an open relationship? Would you ever do that again? Was that like kind of not, do you look back on it differently?
so I think here's what I said then, and I'll say it again now because it's true that podcast episode got so much, like there were people who were like, thank you so much for breaking this down for me in a way
Right.
that I understand, that makes sense to me. And then there were people that were like, these people are so selfish, or there were people that were like finding my now ex-husband and sliding into his DMs and being like, you deserve so much better, bro. Like,
Oh, come
as
on.
if he wasn't also like going out and doing what he
Right.
wanted. So here's what I'll say about that. I think that was the right situation for us. And I think a lot of people might look back and be like, well, it didn't work out, so in your face. When in reality, I do think that brought our relationship farther along than it probably would have gone if we did it. And it also brought us closer, and it like helped us communicate in ways that we didn't know how to before. What ended up separating us actually had nothing to do with that. It was like just about like wanting different things in life in terms of like where we wanted to live, living in New York, my career, timeline on kids, certain things like that. I felt like that was like a really great part of our relationship. Now, granted, it gets complicated. Every
Sure.
relationship is complicated no matter what. Now, do I think I could do that with my current partner? No, I don't.
To not to interrupt, but to back you up a little bit, I would say going into an open relationship with a partner would be like COVID. Like if you want to make it about something a little different, like you go one way or the other, but it gets you there quicker. So
Yeah.
like it's like you guys go to an open relationship, like you said, communication is now better because it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Things aren't being swept under the rug. Like I can understand that's like a reasonable, and I think with dating stuff, the way when people do this to me and they do this to everyone with dating conversations, they try to cut people off at the knees. People
Yes.
don't want to discuss with you. They want to be right. And if
Yeah,
someone
they want
wants
it to
be
be
right,
their way.
right. And if someone wants to be right, they can be right. If they say,
Totally.
if they can create the rules where, well, it didn't work out, so it's a failure. It's like, no. I can look at that any other way and go, no, it's a win that I'm not married to someone that before we ended up having kids and we were able to have those conversations about
Absolutely.
timelines because that stuff came up. Like I hear you.
100%. Yes. And I learned so much about what getting, to be honest, getting the opportunity to date while married put me in situations that I would, with men that I never would have been in otherwise, where there was something about, and this isn't a great thing, but men who dated me, knowing
Yeah.
there was like a sense of safety around the fact that I wasn't going to try to trap them into a relationship or marry them, they were way more open and honest with me. Like I was
Right.
experiencing like a level of intimacy with them that was really eye-opening for me. I was learning things about myself. I was learning about things that I wanted in my next relationships, or reasons why, like I didn't know if my marriage was going to go the distance. And to be honest, what was kind of a slap in the face was I was the same girl going out on dates after I got separated and divorced. But the fact that I wasn't married anymore, men treated me differently. They held me at
Right.
arm's length again, which was really jarring, actually.
It's interesting. It's an interesting study because I agree with those guys. Like if if I'm dating someone in an open marriage, great. We get to have all the fun, never really think of the future. It's the way a lot of men generally want to date or how they do date. Well, where you go, and again, a lot of people take it personally, like you haven't thought about what the next step is. It's like, I've thought ish, like I haven't really thought maybe in the way you'd like me to be thinking about that. And when you're dating someone who's in a committed relationship, you go, all right, good. I can think 2 steps ahead, not 20.
Right. Right. And I understand, wanting to be respectful of people's times, depending on what people want. If there's somebody who's like, I want to be married in a year, I want kids in 2 years or whatever.
Right.
I totally get that. However, I do think it's a bit of a shame for people to hold back the majority of themselves with the fear of enjoying each other too much, of
Right.
getting into something, of falling in love. And granted, it doesn't always work out. It's not supposed to always work out, but at least you got the full experience of what it's like to be your full self with that person. You know what I mean?
Easier said than done. I agree with you. Like, that's a story of my life. Like, let me hold back because I want to make the decision for me instead of being, and I think that happens as you get older, you get safer. When I was younger, I was sleeping at women's places and then going, let's do breakfast and hang out for 24 hours. And then you end that and they go, you spent 24 hours with me. And you're like, I guess I shouldn't do that anymore. Like when
it's
you
hard.
were it's hard.
When you go, now I'm led on for like, or I'm being told that I'm leading people on because I'm being too open or too available.
Right.
And honestly, that I think it's a mix of like, women being so used to being held at, or people being used to being held at arm's length. And when they do get full, open, honest emotions, they feel like this is it. This could really be it.
That must mean so-and-so, like because of this, it must mean that. Yeah, it is and so you get out of, you guys get a divorce, you move out on your own, and
I go back to my own spot. I start dating again. I have a few flings that are, I think in hindsight, like I knew we're probably not going to go to the distance, but I wasn't at that time. I was kind of thinking like, I got married once and I saw what it was all about. And I don't even know if I need to do that again. Like, I could have a series of great love affairs for the rest of my life. I've peeked behind the curtain and like, it's good. It's fine. It doesn't change, it changes your life, but it's not this big mystery. I think like people make marriage this huge thing on a checklist that like you have to mark off by a certain time. Hello, Jeff. This is my dog, Jeff.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Jeff the dog.
That's right. So, I really was not in a place where I was looking for anything serious, which was also interesting for me. To be not looking for anything serious in a different way, where it's like, okay, how fair is it for me to even date when I don't want to get serious right away? Meanwhile, and this is just a batshit crazy story, a girl that I took a comedy class with at UCB a decade ago. Okay. We never hung out. We were in this one class together. We followed each other on Instagram. We've like vaguely commented on each other's stuff over the years. She DMs me and says, hey, I know this is super weird, but I had a dream last night that you went on a date with my friend Drew. And I don't even know if you're single. Are you in a place to be set up? And I was like, well, show me his Instagram. I lurked around. I was like, he's cute. But then I was like, oh, he can grow a good mustache. Okay. Okay. That's a point. We love that. He's also a performer. another actor. It never really works out, but like, whatever, I could go do coffee. And also, who am I to argue with the female intuition?
Right.
I
A
love
woman had a dream. Come
Yeah.
on, you gotta go. Yeah.
I love a good witchy moment. So
Yeah.
I was like, fine, meet this guy for coffee, laugh harder than I've ever laughed on a first date in my life. Cut to, June 5th, it'll be a year since we had that coffee date, and we're living together on the Upper West Side, like planning a life.
How do you thank that woman? Like, how do you thank her? What do you say to her? Like, what does she do now? Is she like, I'm gonna put a table and chairs out in the corner of a street and read palms?
I think she scared herself a little bit. Yeah.
Really?
I think she freaked herself out. She's like, you guys, like, it was just supposed to be coffee. And what's funny is, so she's one of my partner's best friends. And so we were just a couple of weeks ago, we were in LA and we were at her and her husband's house, like in the kitchen, being like, where a year ago, my partner was just there talking about how shitty dating is in New York, how sick of it he is. And we're like, this is where it happened, right here. Like, this was the birth.
Is what people need to do. They need to tell a friend how
dating
bad
sucks.
Things are dating.
Wait for them to have a dream.
Right. And then have them report back with who they saw in the dream.
I mean, I just plan to she's going to have to like officiate my next wedding, I guess. Like, I don't know,
Or she's going to tell you some lottery numbers or something like that. Like, this is like.
It's honestly wild. And I almost hate having to tell this story, because especially on like dating podcasts where people are like, what's the next right thing to do? Like, you don't get to go like.
You can't tell this
Here's
story.
what I did. A girl I barely knew had a dream about me, and now I'm dating this guy. I just like to say, like, I finally got my return on investment at UCB.
Yeah, that's all you can say.
Yeah.
If someone brings up their dating life, all you can say is, yeah, it is hard out there, girl. Like, you cannot.
Fucking lucky.
You cannot say, well, I met, Brian or whatever his name is, I
had terrible taste. Like, I have to say, if this woman didn't dream this man for me, my taste before this was real bad. Like, I was not making good choices, which, granted, you have to make bad choices in dating in order to learn these lessons. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just keep thinking of you going up to a woman and she's complaining about dating, and you're like, have you ever had deja vu? That's how you meet a guy.
Right. And they're like, my English teacher from high school, when I can't find my locker, is he the one? Like, maybe don't follow through on every dream you have, but it's worth it. Look, I'll just say this. If someone has a dream about you on a date with their friend, just go check it out. It might be the love of your life, or it might just be like a funny story. But this is the way that the universe conspires, which in one way I hope makes people feel better, in that I think we take too much ownership of it's all up to me to figure it out. And you just don't know what's going to fall into your lap at any given time. It's the person you are sat next to on the plane. It's it's the person in someone's dream. It's the person who saves you when you're drowning. Like, there's so many random occurrences that happen that don't feel like if it's not happening, you're doing something wrong. Unless your personality sucks.
Well, that doesn't help you with it.
but
look up. This is a version like look up. Look up from your phone. Look up from
Keep your eyes open. Say yes.
Or look
to
at your
something.
DMs and see if someone from Instagram is like, I had a dream about you. Go for it. But
yes.
Don't go on the no roll. You can't say sometimes that's good advice to even for myself. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Jaz Zepatos,
go for a coffee.
Thanks for coming on. This was fantastic. It's so good to catch up with you.
Thanks for having me. So good to catch up with you.
Absolutely. Everyone go follow Jazz at Jazz_Zap with 2 P's. It is called Millennial Movie Club. They just did Terminator. Give me some other movies you've done.
Oh man, we just did, of course, now I can't think of any. No, we just did, hello? Oh, we just did Fight Club. We just did Coyote Ugly.
Piper Paraboo?
Piper Paraboo. My ex's ex.
Did she ever do anything after your ex's ex?
Yeah, you'll have to listen to the episode and hear all about it. But
wow.
She did Cheaper by the Dozen 1 and 2 after that. But yeah, it's
that name was so specific. Piper Paraboo.
So specific, gorgeous girl. We really get into the fun facts and the nitty gritty of these movies and these actors that sometimes they blow my mind when I do this research. So it's a really fun time. I'm also in the process of creating a new show that I'm about to tour called the Honest Disney Princess Tour.
Love it.
If you go follow me, you'll see that I do a lot of music parody, and I do a lot of these recent videos have been going viral of me doing original parody songs to Disney princesses if they were more honest.
Love it.
Don't show your kids; they're not for kids. These are grown up Disney princesses for grown ups. But yeah, one day we'll catch each other on the road, Jared.
I'll see you soon. Well, everyone go follow Jazz. Great to catch up with you. We'll be back next week. Boom.